Alright, apologies. That did break everything, which was not at all what I'd hoped it would do. And then I did finally get to see the live chat just in time to have the whole thing cancel itself. So, hi, I'm Marie from Humblebee and Me, and welcome to my studio tour. I'm going to just quickly hop over and try to grab the link to what we're currently doing now, and then put it in the description of the one that broke, so that hopefully people can see it. Okay, get shareable link. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Figure it had to happen eventually, since most of these have gone off without a hitch. Okay, but hey, as a plus, this did manage to get us on my phone, so that'll make it a little easier for me to wander around the studio. Okay, hopefully people kind of managed to make it over here. Apologies for the technical difficulties. So I'm gonna start at the door here. Perfect, and I can see the chat now. So hi everybody, feel free to ask questions as we go. So this is the door that leads into my studio, and you can see I have some sound deadening foam on it. I managed to pick up a couple different types of sound deadening foam. You can kind of see that we have like the diamonds and the ridges here. I got these for a great deal on Kijiji for a steal, and so what I've done is I've glued them onto pieces of foam core, and then I've used command strips to mount them to to the wall. Hi Denise from New York, and I've seen Wales in there as well, and London. This is just amazing. Israel, wow, I think that's a first. And Iraq, amazing. And South Carolina, oh, it's so cool. I was actually supposed to be in New York right now with my mom for a bit of a trip, and I am sad that I am not in New York, but c'est la vie. I will go back when I can. Right, sound deadening foam. Just to the side here, we have some of my storage for my glassware. So this is one of those nice tall IKEA shelves that was originally a CD shelf. So I was able to pick these up for quite the steal. Again, on Kijiji, pretty much everything I buy is used. Kijiji is the kind of the predominant used marketplace in Calgary. I know in some places it's Craigslist, and in some places, like in Australia, it's Gumtree. But yeah, in Calgary, Kijiji is really active, so that's kind of where I'm getting all this stuff. So you can see my little prep cups that I do lots of measuring in. You're no doubt familiar with these in my videos. Up there I have my dust mask and my safety goggles, and then I've got heaps of beakers down through here. And then down here I have the molds for my bath bomb press. So this is the square one, and then we have a little mini sphere back here, and this is like the flat shampoo bar mold, and I will have a shampoo bar formulation that works with that mold coming out soon. So woo. I'm just gonna do a little bit of a 360 here. I'm gonna try not to make you too seasick. So we spin around. You can kind of see behind me I've got more of those tall CD shelves, which we'll kind of talk about later. Do a little bit of a back bend. Hopefully the kind of exposure fixes itself, because right now it just looks like this white glare on my screen. There we go. So that's my marble table there, where I kind of do pretty much everything. You're no doubt quite familiar with its little lines and whatnot. And then we have my two photography and videography lights, which you can see peering down at the table. You can see a closet in the back. We'll kind of go close to there later. Usually the internet cuts out when I get too close to there, so we'll see how that goes. And then more cabinets, and then we are back where we started. Yeah, all right. This, I'm just gonna pop my phone into a tripod here. There we go. That's better. So here we have one of my cabinets, again, a Kijiji find, woohoo! So this is where I keep most of my sort of equipment. So you can see up here, I kind of have a selection of formulations that I'm working on and observing. And then this is a cutlery tray, and it's full of spoons, random spoons that I have gotten at, like, oh, of course I grabbed like the one fork that's in there. just lots and lots of spoons, and I have these clean and on hand, and I use them to measure out ingredients. I also have some of my tiny spoons. Look at this adorable little spoon. I really love tiny spoons. I think I got this one in London. Tiny spoons are the greatest. They're so cute. Yeah, that's a very long-standing love. So you can see kind of up here we have my spatulas. I've got pipettes in a couple different sizes, so these are sort of the bigger ones that I use, and then some cute little wee ones. I usually use these for fragrances and essential oils, and just kind of kept in mason jars and whatnot. I've got short tiny whisks, tall tiny whisks, a selection of lap spoons, my beloved spatula collection, part of my immersion blender, a cutting board, some 70% isopropyl alcohol in a mister bottle, which I mostly use for bath bombs, and for also kind of misting down surfaces before I start working. And then also if you have filled a bottle with something and you find that the labels don't want to stick, if that's a problem for you, mist the bottle down with some isopropyl alcohol and then wipe it off with a paper towel, and then your labels will stick way better, which is great. Next layer down, kind of have a selection of these awesome measuring cups that have quite long pouring spouts, and so I use these a lot for soap making, and I know I'm not alone in that. Behind it we have my lye jug. I've also got a selection of smaller, more portable scales, some glass bowls that I use for things. There's 3 of them, and the third one is currently in my freezer because it's kind of my permanent water bath. Next one down, more bigger bowls and my soaping pot, and then all the way down at the bottom I've got a collection of coffee grinders because I kind of tend to kill them, so when I find them on sale I buy them up. Some more isopropyl alcohol, giant jug of glycerin back there, and a little cheese cutter that I use for slicing soap, and I also keep my sodium hydroxide down there as well. Close that cupboard. And yeah, remember, if you have any questions, feel free to chime in. I did see somebody say something really lovely about my hair. I did dye it again this week, and I gave myself a little wee bit of a trim, like really just dusting the ends with a pair of embroidery scissors, because it was starting to look a little ratty, and like the rest of the world, I'm not able to get a professional haircut right now. And I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. And then I curled it, and I finished like 5 minutes before I started this live stream. So it probably looked like amazing when I started the live stream, and then when we're done, it's gonna be, that's just kind of how my hair do. All right, scooching over to our next little area here. So this is a 3-tier shelf level that has an assortment of ingredients on it, as you can see. So top shelf here, we have this box is mostly humectants, so I've got my vegetable glycerin, sodium lactate, propylene glycol, propanediol, another bottle of propanediol, some caprylyl glycol, some sodium PCA, loads and loads of things in there. And I also have my pH meter stored here, not for any reason for it making sense, it's just, it's got a little clip on the back of it, and it's very top heavy, so keeping it in a cabinet usually just means it falls over all the dang time, and that can't be good for it. So I've moved it over here because I can clip it onto the side of this little basket so it doesn't die on me. Let's see here, this is sort of a miscellaneous selection of, I've got a couple liquid extracts in here. I have some kind of actives, like my coenzyme Q10 lives in here, and my Hylerlip, which is such a funny thing to say. And then I have some pH adjusting stuff here, so I have some triethanolamine and a citric acid solution and some pH strips. Over here, this is a collection of kind of things I use in low concentrations most of the time. This box is a little weird. I've got my preservatives in here, so I've got some Phenonip, I've got Liquid Dermal Plus, some Optifin Plus, I've got some my antioxidants as well, so vitamin E and rosemary seed extract, and then kind of the next one over, which is sort of hiding behind my apron here, from the Handcrafted Bath and Body Guild. I got that at one of their conferences. Yes, this little box over here is all hydrolyzed protein, so quinoa protein, baobab protein, all kinds of things. So that's kind of what's going on that top shelf. Next shelf down, this is waxes and thickeners. So over here, fatty thickeners, so cetyl alcohol, stearic acid, and pseudo waxes as well, so olive wax and almond wax. Those are like they're called waxes, but they're hydrogenated oils, so they're not really real waxes, but they do work really nicely as a thickener. And then on the other side here, I have a selection of real waxes, so beeswax, candlelight wax, soy wax, carnauba wax, etc. And then on the very bottom shelf of this one, gonna hang out with me on the floor here, this is lots of cosmetic powders. So I've got my cerussite mica, my zinc oxide, my titanium dioxide, my magnesium stearate, all kinds of kind of boring-ish white cosmetic powders, and then some very exciting white cosmetic powders as well. Again, I've got another one of these cabinets. On top of it, a selection of either things I'm watching or things that are done. Got a mirror that I bought for using in kind of the makeup tutorial videos that I don't really ever do anymore. I've seen a couple questions about fridges. We will kind of get to fridges later. Now, just because I don't store something in the fridge doesn't necessarily mean that you don't need to. Keep in mind I live in Canada and it's pretty cold here. So, like, check out my coconut oil. I hear from plenty of people that their coconut oil is liquid. Mine is not. So I maybe a little bit more kind of leeway than you do if you live somewhere warmer. So just kind of keep that. Top shelf of this cabinet is all carrier oils that I don't keep in the fridge. Some of this is a hangover from when I had a much smaller fridge for DIYing. Some of these, as I'm looking at them, talking, you're going, huh, I should probably move that to my fridge. But it's things, mostly things that are pretty stable. So things fractionated coconut oil that are fairly inexpensive. The next shelf down is a collection of butters. Now, I usually don't keep butters in my fridge, in large part because saturated fats are significantly more shelf stable than unsaturated fats. So the things like cocoa butter are predominantly stearic acid and other hard, like palmitic acid, hard saturated fats, and they are more shelf stable. It's just a bunch of packaging, mostly still in box. A lot of it, but I was like, I'm gonna sell stuff and I'm gonna need a ton of bottles and jars. And I'm happy to have them now because bottles and jars are something that's been really hard to come by with kind of all the panic buying and the shortages and slowing shipping and everything. So I have a lot of those things, but yeah, they're just kind of relegated there because there's a lot of them. And then on the very bottom shelf, lots of oils in big containers. I got a question from Ella here. Can you put butters in the fridge? Yeah, you absolutely can. They just get a lot harder, and then you usually have to take them out of the fridge and wait for a bit before you can effectively measure them, sort of depending on the format. It's like something that's poured into a container and then hardened up. If you put it in the fridge, you're going to be chipping away at that with an ice pick if you try to scoop it out right after bringing it out of the fridge or freezer. But it will extend the shelf life. So it will extend the shelf life of your products, and if you have the space in a fridge to keep all stuff in the fridge, they will last longer. There are some, but usually your supplier should be telling you, like, don't refrigerate. But other than that, you can keep a lot of things in the fridge. It's just sort of a matter of how long you want to wait for them to be soft and usable. Right, so the shelf is mostly like a castor oil, some huge jugs of olive oil, and some bigger bottles of essential oils. Close that up. And then in this corner here, have a little bookshelf. So up top you can see my beautiful bath bomb press, and then you can kind of follow this red cord down to my very loud air compressor that powers that beautiful, beautiful thing. And then most of the rest of the bookcase there is stuff that I'm watching or things that I've sort of already finished and shared. So you can see here quite a lot of bottles of my self-preserving Satsuma shower gel because I made a ton of it. There's more of it in my shower as well. But yeah, you can kind of see, yep, yeah, I make a lot of stuff as I'm testing these formulations. The next one down there, we have a drying rack that is covered in things like shampoo, conditioner bars, and all kinds of things. Even have a gift here from Ariane from La Fille de la Mer. And so this is one of her shampoo bars she did me at the HSCG conference last year. I can't believe it's already been a year. Whoa. So I'm to the bathbombpress.com. They're a company of Edmonton, Alberta, which is about a 3.5-ish hour drive north of me here in Calgary. Great Canadian company. The lady who runs it, Lee, is absolutely lovely. They're really great about providing sample formulations and guidance on how to work with the press. So it's, yeah, great. And then just a disclosure, this was a gifted item, but I 100% love it. Okay, and the bottom shelf of this bookcase is a disaster, and it's all just miscellaneous packaging that didn't really seem to fit anywhere else. Another shelf! You'll notice that I've partitioned a lot of my ingredients out into tubs and whatnot. You can see that a lot of them are just like repurposed boxes, shoe boxes, shipping boxes, and then a lot of them are little plastic tubs of roughly dollar store quality. I usually try to scoop those up at places like garage sales or moving sales, so that I'm not paying full price for them, basically. This box here is mostly sort of silicones and other sort of performance liquids. So it's mostly silicones, but then I also keep my isododecane in there because it just sort of seems to fit. My logic works for me. And I've got things like a silicone gel in here from TKB Trading. I also have my natural silicone replacements in here, and then other kind of performance liquids from TKB Trading, like their Film Fix, which I absolutely adore. This box here in the front is thickeners, so lots of gums, gels, gelling agents. You're going to be seeing this one in an upcoming post tomorrow, actually, Sepimax Zen, really handy pre-neutralized thickener. And then in the back I have most of my sort of powdered, non-heat sensitive actives. So like Penstive powder, hyaluronic acid, I've got my urea in here, caffeine powder, allantoin, panthenol, all kinds of things just kind of hanging out in this box back here. The next shelf down is mostly bath salts and bath bomb making things, so that bad boy, that's all baking soda, and then I've got citric acid, I've got some Natrasorb, some Dead Sea salt, some Himalayan pink salt, so this is kind of my bath section, and then as we get down on the floor, these are sort of my botanicals. These are more shoebox, and this is more sort of powdered ones. So I have some things like a liquid yucca extract in there, and like dried rose buds, and then I also have powdered plant extracts, like powdered shavegrass extract, in kind of in a baggy sort of format. So that is what is going on there. I can stand up again. We have another one of these shelves, and it's actually stacked on top of another shelf, which was part of a reorganization I did around Christmas time. Top shelf is mostly clays, so you can see Rasool, Multani Midi, Ultrafine Glacial Cosmetic Clay, Red Kaolin Clay, just tons of clays up here. And then, oh, this is a really fun gift. This was a gift from a reader I met when I was in New Zealand, and so this is Rotorua Mud. So I've been to Rotorua, and it's a very geologically active place with tons of, if you're in the right place, lots of like burbling ponds and lots of smells of sulfur in the air. And so this is one of my favorite parts of traveling. And also up there I have some refills of some surfactants that I have bought like larger containers of. I'm starting to see that the internet is maybe getting a little mad at me because I'm getting close to my internet drop-off point. Ali Nicole says, I've been pronouncing it allantoin. I have been called out for pronouncing allantoin wrong many, many times because the sort of basic French education I have from growing up in Canada makes me want to say allantoin. And I have looked it up many, many times, and I'm pretty confident it's allantoin, which I think sounds kind of funny because I really want to say allantoin, but what you gonna do? Okay, this shelf, surfactants. So solid surfactants kind of all through here, so you can see some come in tubs, some in bags. I definitely prefer it when they come in tubs because the bags tend to have they seem to almost always split on me before I finish, and then I end up with this, like, you pick up the bag and like there's just surfactant falling out the bottom of it, and you inhale it and it's gross. And then over here, liquid surfactants, so many. I have roughly categorized them as amphoteric, anionic, and non-ionic, but that kind of gets a little dicey. Our next shelf is emulsive stearate SE. We have our all of them 300. We have, I think this is all of them 1000. I can see some Retomals back there, Poloax, and then things like Sucragel and Aristaflex ABC, which could debatably also go in with the thickeners. And then this category is all, there's some powders from making cosmetics that are basically kind of cold processed, easy super hair thing. So this is like a hair fix powder, which is VP and VA copolymer, which is supposed to kind of be the sort of thing that would give hold in a hair gel. And I bought lots of these things ages ago and have never ever shared a formulation with them. So one day we'll see. I've got way more ingredients than I know what to do with. Okay, climbing back onto the floor again. This is one of those Calyx shelving units from IKEA that I again got used on Kijiji. This butt bin here is entirely full of photography textures, so no doubt you'll recognize some of these things. This one's really fun. One of my friends, for a gift, made me Humblebee and me branded dish towels. So you sometimes see those in photos. So I've got, yeah, just like lots of textured stuff in here, paper and crocheted dish towels even. Things that usually what I'm looking for is subtle texture, because I'm photographing things really quite close to the backdrop, because the thing I'm photographing is usually quite small, right? So we don't want the texture to be too busy or too crazy, or it gets to be overwhelming. So whenever I'm at like an antique store, or you know, if I get something in the mail that comes with sort of some nice paper that's been crumpled and then smoothed again, it looks great in photos, so I just kind of keep it. Heave-ho, put that back. This is mostly photography gear, so this is one of my camera bags, and there's another camera bag behind it. Pretty boring. The camera gear I use is elsewhere, and I use most of the time is elsewhere, and we'll look at that later. This is all molds, so mostly silicone molds, but also some metal bath bomb molds. And this is more packaging. This is mostly bath and body type packaging, but I also keep little kind of disposable cups in here. These are some of my favorite things for making stuff in that you're not sure about, things that you're kind of going, this is an experiment, and I'm going to want to observe this over a long period of time. I don't want to make it in a beaker, or at least I don't want to store it in a beaker, because then I won't be able to use the beaker for like heaven knows how long. So when you buy these, they come with lids, and I've got lids in there, and so you can kind of snap the little lid on it, put a label on it, put it on a shelf, and then you are not worrying about having all your glass out of commission. So that's nice. They're also really good if you're making messes that are really hard to clean up, because you can just throw it away. Okay, and kind of orient you. At the top there, you see some little red things, pre-made I'm working on. This shelf here is pretty much entirely. This little dude is a gift from a bee. A viewer. I met her in Nanaimo, British Columbia, when I did a so amazing, so cool. But yeah, lots of interesting kind of things here that I pick up from all kinds of places. So some of these, I think it was this one. My parents found this in the backyard of my childhood home, which was built in the early 1900s. Definitely not saying that right. But this is just like a very old bottle. How cool is that? I like old bottles a lot. A selection of old bottles, old tins. You might recognize this one from Bill's Lavender Salve, and called Step Back. And so they often have cool cool packaging. So whenever I'm in Vancouver, I'll usually make a point of stopping in there and seeing what I can find. So yeah, lots of the time when you see cool props in my pictures, that's the shelf that they live on. Most of the time, I don't permanently store things in the vintage containers. A lot of the time the lids aren't there, or they're in quite bad shape, they're rusted out, just generally not doing so hot. I'm just gonna scoop. So yeah, a lot of the time I do that so that it makes a nice picture, but it's not necessarily Apologies. Yeah, not necessarily actually living in that container. And then the bottom two layers there are more types of packaging. Lots and lots of packaging. Those are mostly PET squeezy bottles. So I'm going to do a quick pivot here. And so there we have, again, the marble table from a different angle. You can see these things. Those are some of my photo backdrops. So kind of go take a look at those. So you'll probably recognize a lot of these. They are, yeah, like just bits of old wood or old planks from barns that I've sawed up and then attached to boards to sort of hold them together. So no doubt you recognize some of the textures from there if you've looked at a decent amount of my projects and my photography. So kind of just use those to keep things interesting. I've found some of them at like secondhand stores. It'll just randomly be like, and then here are also some old like boards from a fence. I'm like, sweet, I will give you money for old fence boards. And then I even found a shop that was down in, I think, Okotoks that basically just did nothing but sell old like barnwood cast-offs. So that's kind of where a lot of those things have come from. I have driven around the province and acquired many that splinter to make some pretty cool backdrops. I also have a collection of tiles that I use to kind of fake having different countertops. And then, of course, the marble table is kind of the default. One of the best things I've ever managed to find secondhand, this marble tabletop is real marble, and you can see it's quite thick. It's very heavy. I found it on Kijiji, again, from a restaurant that was switching from marble tabletops to a different type of marble tabletop. So I think I got that bad boy for like $150, and it's amazing. So I'm a big fan of that, except for when I move, because it's just so heavy. What else do we have down here? I have my studio garbage can. Very exciting. And then behind that I have a small plastic tub that I basically put all my dishes in, and then whenever I need to do dishes I just carry it into the kitchen. That's where I do the dishes, and then do the dishes there. Something else that I have here is this white L. I use that to fake a wall. So I lift it up and I put it on top of the marble tabletop, and that's kind of my like white wall backdrop in my pictures, usually the ones that you see when I am working on the product. So if I have a picture of like a beaker on a scale or something, the white backdrop is just that. And so those are like 2 pieces of plywood basically that I bought at Home Depot, painted white, and then my dad helped me kind of turn them into an L and add some brackets so that they stand up on their own, and yeah, it's a fake wall. So we have my lights here. I did briefly touch on my lights in the previous live stream that I broke. So I'm just going to turn them on so you can see how bright they are. Woo! So these are daylight balanced constant lights. So they're not flash activated or anything, so I film with them and take pictures. These lights are from a brand called Strobe Pro, which has a location in Calgary. I'm not sure if they're headquartered out of here or not, but they're great. I've been a big fan. I've got stands, they move up and down, they're quite lightweight. The bulbs in them are like this big. They're like normal coil bulbs, but they're huge. Here, I'll turn the lights off before they get too hot, and I'll just kind of pull back the diffuser and show you. Like, look at that. Okay, let it not too warm. So my videos are lit with 8 of these monstrous bulbs, which are like the size of my face. Photography equipment is up next. So I'll pick you up and we'll go for a wee wander. Try not to make you too seasick. Okay, more of the awesome CD towers. This is all my camera gear that I use regularly. So, yeah, I do both Nikon and Canon because basically I started with Nikon. I use Nikon for photography. I did shoot most of my videos with Nikon, and so I have, this is my workhorse photography camera here. This is the Nikon D750, and this is the lens I shoot most of my blog pictures on. So this is a macro lens, a 60mm 2.8. So really like this lens. And I did shoot most of my videos with that camera as well up until about a year ago when I decided to celebrate hitting 50,000 YouTube subscribers, and I picked up a used Canon EOS 80D. There's two huge benefits of this camera for shooting video with. I'm just gonna put you down so I have my hands back. This camera, the screen flips out and around so I can see myself in it, but it has facial tracking autofocus, which has been amazing. It means that I can shoot at lower depth of field, and it also means that I can, just filming myself is a heck of a lot easier. With the previous camera, the autofocus didn't track your face and it was really slow and really loud. So I very quickly learned that I couldn't use it, which was kind of fine. You know, I would set it to a very deep depth of field and then just kind of mark on the floor where I was able to stand. But I definitely had a few times where I would film something and I'd go to edit it and realize that I'd leaned like a little too far forward, and now my entire face was softly out of focus, and I didn't know until I got on the computer, which is always really frustrating. So yeah, I have both Canon and Nikon, so that is why you see two different bodies and also a fairly wide selection of lenses. I have some hard drives for my backup files, gloves, canned air for blowing off, specks off of lenses and things, and then a little lower down I've got like my selection of washi tape and a bunch of sort of filled up old notebooks, microfiber cloths from for cleaning lenses, etc. So that's kind of what's going on that shelf. This is the wall that I film against. So when I'm filming videos, this is the wall you see behind me. It's just a white wall. There's nothing exciting going on there. And so when we turn around, you can see that the two lights, would shine on my face. So, hi, I'm Marie from Humblebee and Me, and today we're making something. That happens here. Okay, now pretty much we just have the closet. Fingers crossed that the internet holds. And I'll try not to get too close to it because, yeah, it's definitely a little dodgy in here. Got a little light I can turn on here, and here we are. So up top, we have packaging. So there are like little wooden boxes. I'll just pull one down. They're little boxes with a slide top. And then I bought some blackboard tape and attached that here and use a chalkboard marker to label them. And so, if I change lights, if I'm changing what's in there at some point in time, I can just wipe it off and relabel it. It happens. So this closet is an outside wall, so it's one of the coolest places in my studio as well. So, well, hello Katriona and welcome. Let's see here. I have this. This is one of the Alex shelf or Alex drawer units. It has most of my colorants, all my essential and fragrance oils, and my internet's getting a little sketchy, but I've got pigments done with by color. So this is like reds and pinks, and then the next one is like oranges, browns, and yellows, greens, purples, and blues, and then silvers and blacks. So many fun things. The next two drawers are essential oils and fragrance oils. So I've used little round labels on the lids of all of them to label them so I can tell what they are. I use red ink to mark fragrance oils and black ink to mark essential oils for sort of further easier differentiation. And also those are the only two color of fine tip Sharpies I own. The second drawer is a deeper drawer. It's kind of with the way the drawer unit works. The top 5 drawers are a little shallow in this second drawer, same labeling. And then the bottom 3 are even more packaging because you can never have too much. What else do we have up here? Shelves up there. I know at least one of those is just a ton of silicone molds that I don't use very often, including one massive like bundt cake one that I once made soap in, and it needed so much soap to fill it that it got a little overwhelming. We have my dress form in here. She doesn't get as much use as she used to, but I used to use her as my focus dummy before I switched to the Canon 80D, which didn't need a focus dummy. So I named her Rosemary when I got her when I was about 11 years old, and I'm sorry, Rosemary, that you are not getting nearly as much love. Fridge. So the mini fridge, I upgraded to a bigger one. I used to have one of like the tiny ones that's like a cube. You really can't put very much in one of those. So that's now my beer fridge because it holds a pretty good amount of beer. And I picked up another bigger used mini fridge. I only got this for 40 bucks. Used mini fridges are pretty inexpensive to come by. And so kind of my philosophy on stuff that I keep in the fridge: hydrosols, all my hydrosols, big bottles of oils that were reasonably expensive or I haven't opened yet. Like, at some point in my very optimistic past, I bought a second liter of sweet almond oil, even though I was still working my way through a first liter of it, and so I put the second unopened one in there to extend its shelf life. All my fancy carrier oils, so argan oil, evening primrose oil, passion fruit oil, kiwi seed oil, poppy seed oil, these are all stored in here. I have a selection of actives that I'm supposed to refrigerate, so like this Vitaplex from Lotion Crafter straight up says on there, you know, please refrigerate. So, well, it says keep below 25 degrees Celsius, which honestly isn't that hard of an ask for Canada, but yeah, keep it in the fridge, be safe. I have my ceramide complex in here. Yeah, it's mostly things that are expensive. That's kind of my, like, when it comes to filling up a fridge, put your expensive stuff in there first. And then, yeah, a bunch of miscellaneous stuff, like a bag of tallow. I ordered it and came in a box lined with a bag, and now I just kind of have this like greasy sack of tallow left as I've been working my way through it. Lots of big jugs of distilled water that I haven't tapped into yet, some more photography props. That big black bag there is actually a photography backdrop holder, which I honestly mostly use for client work. I've never used it for anything for Humblebee and me, but when clients want me to do photography of their products and they want like that smooth white uniform background, that's where that comes in. I've got a giant roll of white paper, which is actually just kind of behind that tripod there, and then I can drape that down from the holder all over. Yeah. Top Secret Bear says you can cook with tallow too. I'm vegetarian, so I don't actually eat tallow, but I will soap with it. I did write a blog post on it. I realize that's a fairly inconsistent thing, but also it's very old tallow, and I don't necessarily know if it's food grade, so I'm probably not going to eat that. All right. Looking around here, I think I have shown you everything. And does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask before I sign off? So Lottie is not allowed in my studio. For those of you who don't know, Lottie is my dog. But that doesn't stop her from sometimes coming up. And like she'll just push a... Okay, I think we're back. Okay, I think we're back. So I saw a question coming through about hydrosols. Unfortunately, I'm not in love with the mobile display of chat. There we go. Okay. Oh, hi, Zahida! If you guys see Handmade in Florida there, she makes the most beautiful, beautiful soaps, and I highly, highly, highly recommend checking out her, right, that is my thumb in the way trying to scroll through the live chat to see your questions. Okay, yeah, the internet is absolutely not cooperating right now, so I'm just gonna call it and sign off. Thank you so much for tuning in, and yeah, I will see you soon. I'd love to do another